Chapter 3. Say What? When Maxi caught up with his grandpa out the front of the club, he told him about his conversation with Sergeant Jolly. Grunted Grandpa Bill. Do you know why there's only one paddleboard left? No, said Maxi. 25 of them were stolen a few months ago, Grandpa Bill replied. Because Sergeant Jolly forgot to lock up the club one night, didn't he? The thieves just strolled in through the front door, and do you know why the club wasn't able to replace the boards in the first place? No, said Maxi, but he had a feeling he knew who was to blame. Because Sergeant Jolly forgot to pay the insurance bill, that's why. Just then, music started blaring out of some giant speakers that had been set up on the beach, distracting Maxi's grandpa. What's the matter, Grandpa Bill? Don't you like Taylor Swift? Said Maxi with a grin. Just the earlier stuff, Maxi, said Grandpa Bill with a wink. Maxi spotted Felix and Rachel in the distance and gave them a wave. Hey, Grandpa, I better go. I think we're starting soon. Maxi left Bones and his grandpa sitting together on the beach. His two best friends were throwing a frisbee to each other as they waited for juniors to start. As usual, Rachel caught the frisbee almost every time, and Felix dropped it just as often. Maxi grinned, remembered the first time they had all met at Bondi East Primary. Felix had dropped a simple catch on the oval at recess, and straight away, the school bully Josh Seaward had started teasing him. How unk are you, mate? He said. Hey, just leave him alone, said Maxi, who happened to be standing nearby. I bet you've dropped loads of catches before. Actually, I haven't, said Josh. And to prove it, how about a catch-off at lunchtime? A catch-off, said Maxi. First one to drop the ball is a loser and gets called Unco for the rest of the year, said Josh with a mean smile. And who's going to be throwing the balls, asked Maxi. Josh pointed to Ed Sligo, who was easily the biggest kid in their year. He'll be throwing the tennis ball to you. Then he looked around and spotted Rachel, who was the only girl close by, and she'll be throwing the ball to me, he said with an evil smirk. At lunchtime, it seemed like half the school had turned out to the oval to watch the catch-off. Maxi went first. After a huge wind-up, Ed sent a hard, flat throw to Maxi's left. Maxi dived towards it and somehow the tennis ball sailed into the palm of his hand. All the kids who were watching cheered. Josh glared at Ed. That was such a soft throw, he complained. Then it was Josh's turn to catch. Maxi had overheard him telling Ed that girls couldn't throw very hard because they had weak arms. Rachel got straight to throwing without any silly build-up. She pulled her arm back and she let the ball go at high speed. The ball at high speed with loads of spin on it, making it dip viciously just as Josh tried to catch it. It bounced out of his hands and he made a desperate effort to catch it again before it hit the ground. Josh dived, full stretch, across a muddy paddle. But the ball once again popped. Once again the ball popped out of his grasp and rolled slowly away from him across the oval. Everyone cheered and ran over to Maxi to congratulate him. As a very muddy Josh domed off the oval, from that day on, Josh had hated Maxi. From that day on, Josh had hated Maxi, Rach, and Felix. And from that day on, the three of them had become best friends. Hey Rach, hey Felix, said Maxi as he joined his mates. The beach was starting to get busy around them and more kids turned up for juniors. As usual, Felix was covered from head to toe in thick white sunscreen. All of Maxi's friends were smart enough to protect themselves from the sun, but Felix took it to a whole new level. He had once worked on a school project about skin cancer and had never forgotten about the dangers of being exposed to the harsh Australian sun. Better be safe than sorry, he'd say when anyone questioned the massive amount of sunscreen he applied. Maxi looked around. A line of colourful flags nearby were marked with different age groups, and further down the beach were more flags with the words like swim, board and sprints on them. Out of the water he saw an inflatable boat cruising around with a big yellow buoy positioned about 80 metres offshore. I hope we don't have to go further than that. Maxi's thoughts were interrupted by a piercing whistle. Okay everybody, now, called out fit young man with head instructor on his cap. That's Peter McIntyre, explained Rachel. Everyone calls him Macca. He runs the Buckler Juniors. All the kids in their blue swimming caps, coloured zinc and high-vis rashes sprinted over to the flag that displayed their age group. Juniors turned out to be more awesome than Maxi had hoped. Everyone seemed to be having a blast. Maxi was super impressed by how fast and skillful Rach was at the activities. She was easily the best skateboarder in the school, so it wasn't surprising that she also was Buckler's star performer in all the inter-club competitions. Felix, on the other hand, moved like a baby giraffe on roller skates. He looked awkward whether he was trying to catch a wave, dive for a flag, or even eat an ice cream. Maxi was a pretty good runner and pool swimmer, but he had decided to take... Maxi was a pretty good runner and pool swimmer, but he had decided to take a pretty chilled approach to juniors and spent most of the session at the back of the pack, keeping Felix company. The morning flew by until the last part of the training paddleboard. Maxi had never used a paddleboard before, so Rachel gave him a few tips in the shallows. There's Maxi and Rachel on the board there. At first, Maxi was unsteady and fell off a few times, but he got the hang of balancing pretty quickly, and after 10 minutes, he was almost as good as Felix. Not that Felix was very good. Suddenly, Macca called out, "Everybody here, between the flags, now." The juniors parked their colourful paddleboards on the sand, then quickly formed a tight group around Macca, who began to talk with a booming voice. The councillors just announced that there will be a big competition between 5 local junior clubs in a month's time. Most of the kids cheered, but Maxi started to tune out. With my board skills, the other competitors would have to rescue me, he thought. It's called the Under-12s Junior Ocean Challenge, and the person who comes first will win $5,000 for their club, continued Macca. A lot of the juniors whistled enthusiastically, but Maxi's mind had already wandered. The winner will also get to spend the day with lifeguard Mick Hawke while he's on duty at Bondi, continued Macca. What's that? Said Maxi, grabbing Felix's shoulder. Did he say Mick Hawke? Macca kept talking. The competition will be in 2 parts. The first part is a race involving a run, a swim and a paddleboard leg. And the second part involves competitors giving a presentation on the topic, what's the best thing about juniors? Maxi's mind was racing. Win competition, meet Mick Hawke. Win competition, meet Mick Hawke. As most of you know, Buckler could really do with the money for the building repairs, continued Macca. So to improve your chances of winning against the other 5 clubs, we're going to have practice races at the end of each junior session for any of the under-12s who are interested. The kids all clapped, but none louder than Maxi. The race order will be the run, the board, leg, and then the swim. So that's how we're going to practice. I'll set things up now and we can start in 3 minutes, said Macca, looking at his watch. Maxi's chilled attitude towards juniors was suddenly gone. How cool would it be to hang with Mick Hawke for the day, he thought. But his daydreaming was rudely interrupted by a scream that came from directly behind him. Ah! Stay tuned for chapter 4.